All right, let's get it. Welcome back to episode number 3 of For the Ages, where we talk about all things golf and golf history. Today, I'm joined again by Chase Gonzalez.
Dude,
Welcome, Chase.
happy to be back, man.
Let's go. It's like we never left.
Yeah, always.
So, today's episode, I felt like it was fitting to highlight some recent stuff that took place. We talked about it in the last episode um, with the Masters, but we have a new Grand Slam winner on the books with Rory. So
Man, made it happen.
figured what better episode to dive into next than let's take a look at some other Grand Slam winners.
Sounds good.
So here we are. Any thoughts heading into this episode, Chase?
Gosh, I think my biggest thought is why did they stop giving people nicknames? I think once you got to the final two, they don't have any good nicknames.
Well, Tiger is a nickname.
That is the nickname.
Real name Eldrick.
Right.
But yeah, Rory, I mean,
Roars. But
Uh,
it's not like the Golden Bear,
that's
you know?
that's a fair point.
That's my thought going into this.
That's a fair point. Well, we're gonna dive into it with some of the Grand Slam winners, a little bit of history on some of them, and yeah, some of the accomplishments that they had. So, I guess first and foremost, for those that may not know, for you if you don't know, the term Grand Slam in golf was actually coined back in 1930 by a famous sports writer, O.B. Keeler, who we've talked about in a previous episode. So he was actually describing Bobby Jones during this because he won all the four major tournaments of that era, being the U.S. Open, U.S. Amateur, British Open, and British Amateur, all in the same year. So that's where the term Grand Slam originated from.
Okay.
Now, the modern Grand Slam, because pros don't play in the amateur tournaments, which we talked about last time too, the modern Grand Slam is, of course, the Masters, the PGA Championship, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship, otherwise known as the British Open. So this was more modernized back in like 1960, whenever Arnold Palmer, after he won the Masters, a reporter suggested to him that winning all four in a year would be golf's version of a Grand Slam, like modern golf's version of a Grand Slam. So 1930s origins, 1960s, a little bit of a resurgence. This caught fire. This was actually Palmer's idea that this was a deal. So
That's sick.
he kind of planted the seed himself. Interesting though, he may have jinxed himself because he's not one of the winners. We'll dive into that. But the media caught it and it stuck.
Yeah.
So it's been here ever since.
Love that.
So let's jump in. We've got a total now of 6 people who have completed the career Grand Slam. To start, we will begin with Gene, aka the Squire, Sarazen.
What a nickname, man. I mean, come on.
I know. So 1935 was whenever he accomplished his Grand Slam feat at age 33. Took him one attempt to do it. So, he obviously won all the majors that I mentioned earlier, Masters, U.S. Open, PGA Championship, Open Championship. But he was the first golfer to win in the modern era of the career Grand Slam. And it was the final major that he needed, which was the Masters, which, if you recall from our previous episodes, his albatross on number 15 helped propel him to a career Grand Slam. So pretty interesting stuff that Gene is on that list. He's a guy, and I was actually having a conversation earlier. When you think about golf, it's really easy to sort of get narrowly focused on the modern era.
Right.
And we got to pay our respects. And Gene Sarazen is the epitome of that, right? Like, he was one of the OGs, and he accomplished this feat first. So props to him. Another couple interesting things that he did. So he actually invented the modern sand wedge in the early 1930s. So shout out to Gene for helping us around the greens these days. And Also, he was one of the first golfers to appear on TV as an analyst and commentator later in life. So, Gene Sarazen, OG. Any thoughts on Gene?
I mean, I think we could consider him one of the golf gods.
I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say. So, moving on to the second winner of the Grand Slam, we've got Ben, a.k.a. the Hawk, Hogan.
I mean, who comes up with these?
I don't know. We're going to do an episode on Ben Hogan.
Okay.
Do a much, much deeper dive.
Good.
I'll
Yeah.
get into some of the stuff that I've read about him, but being that he's a Texan, being that he is a Grand Slam winner,
Right.
such a pivotal player in golf's progression and story, I want to do an episode just on Ben Hogan.
Yeah.
For now, we'll keep it fairly condensed. So he accomplished the feat in 1953. He was 40 years old when this happened. Took him one attempt to do it. Now, to be fair, he had played all of the 3 traditional majors in the United States many times. It wasn't until later in his career when he decided to take a trip across the pond to go play in the Open Championship.
Okay.
What was really interesting about Ben Hogan and one of the books that I've read on him thus far is that he wasn't really feeling the Open Championship. He didn't want to travel to Scotland or Ireland or the UK. He, travel took a toll on him, just even playing in the States, right? Back then it was a lot. There weren't PJs flying around everywhere,
right.
That didn't come until a little bit later. So he was roughing it a little bit. And what's interesting is it took a lot of convincing for Ben to actually commit to playing in the Open Championship. A lot of people trying to convince him. Reporters, players, friends, his wife, close confidants, like a lot of people. And he was getting a lot of pressure too from the press to go and play in it. In fact, Golf Monthly had a May issue in 1953, and they had this eloquent plea to have Hogan come play in the Open at Carnoustie. And it was titled, Hogan, the Master, Come Over. So they sort of put this poetic piece together to lure him in, and it may have resonated with him and may not have. He wasn't the biggest fan of the media. Certainly before his car crash, he was not. After his car crash, he became a little bit softer, similar to Tiger, actually.
Yeah.
In that respect. But just an interesting piece that they were just doing everything they could to get him to come over to Scotland to play Carnoustie. He, after winning the Colonial in 1953, he actually asked an English reporter who was there in the United States to kind of track his movements. He had asked him, is it as tough as they say it is? And the reporter kind of cheekily was like, probably none harder, all wind, few trees as far as you can see. Ben kind of like smiled, nodded, and interesting about Ben Hogan, he actually disliked trees on golf courses, which is, I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing to not like if you're one of the best players ever.
I mean, it's not like he's hitting out of them.
Right. I mean, he hit a lot of fairways in his day. Best ball striker of all time, arguably. But he didn't like trees. What better place to go play than links golf, where there are none. So he was actually at dinner with his wife, Valerie, and a guy named Paul Shields, who was his broker. And Paul had asked him at dinner, he's like, hey, Ben, are you going to play in the Open? They were nearing the deadline of when he needed to submit his entry. And again, he was just like not keen on traveling overseas. And he kind of made a little bit of a backhanded comment and said, tell you what, if I win the U.S. Open at Oakmont, I'll think about it. And much to sort of his wife's displeasure, she really wanted him to play in it too. She was sitting at the table. She got pretty serious with him and kind of gave him like that look that, the wife or significant other will give you. You and I know a thing or two about that.
You seem familiar with that.
But she said to him, Ben, I would think you would have the curiosity to want to go. So, wife putting a little pressure.
Love it.
Teaser, the U.S. Open at Oakmont, which is also the host of the 2025 U.S. Open coming up this calendar year. Perhaps the best final 3 holes that Ben Hogan put together was in that round. It was a grueling course and tournament. I mean, the competition was very tight. He ended up shooting 71 in the final round and shattered the Oakmont tournament record by 11 strokes.
Wow. Okay.
So, classic U.S. Open style tournament.
Yeah.
But he was feeling some of the wear and tear. So, anyways, going back to the dinner conversation, after his wife Valerie made that comment, he finally caved and said, okay, I'll submit my entry. So he ended up doing that only a few hours before the deadline.
Okay.
He went to the USGA headquarters and submitted his entry like within hours of the deadline, which, the RNA probably would have made an exception for Ben Hogan if he had been delayed, but still not a good look.
Yeah.
One of his buddies, fellow Texan as well, Jimmy Demaret, claims that he was actually the one to finally convince Ben Hogan to commit to it. But
we'll never know.
I think the wife probably wanted.
She had something to do with it.
Well, here's another interesting thing about that is Valerie, his wife, ended up parlaying that into a trip to Paris. So, hey, if we're going to be over in Scotland, let's just go ahead and pop down to France and check it out. There was an exhibition match that he had been contacted to play in through the U.S. Air Force Base that was there. So he kind of felt compelled through President Eisenhower at the time to go and make an appearance. So he kind of played on both, like, it's going to make my wife happy. I'm also serving a little bit of a duty to my country. Great. It's kind of the best of both worlds. But yeah, 1953, interesting year for Ben Hogan. He was getting up there in age. Again, he was age 40 when he won in Carnoustie. But a lot of people wrote him off. They were kind of thinking that maybe Ben is done. Like, he's going out to pasture, right? But 1953 ended up being one of the best seasons of his career. He won the Masters. He won the Panorama Open. He won the Colonial. He won the U.S. Open at Oakmont, the World Golf Championship, and also the Open Championship.
Wow. What a year.
What a year. So, thoughts on Ben Hogan?
I mean, the man, that's a name that you hear not even loosely brought up in a lot of golf conversations around golf history. So that's incredible. Yeah. It also sounds like his wife and Caroline would be good friends, parlaying any sort of trip into visiting other locations. So respect to her.
Yeah, I respect it.
Yeah,
I respect it. Get your trip to Paris.
Of course,
make the trip over there. So moving on to the third winner of this series, Gary Player, aka the Black Knight. 1965 was the year. He was 29 at the time.
Wow. Okay.
Took him 3 attempts to get it done. So Player was actually the only non-American among the Grand Slam winners. He was the first international presence, right? Gene Sarazen and Ben Hogan, both Americans. Gary Player, illustrious career, 9 majors, really a global impact on the sport. He was actually, aside from his Black Knight nickname, he was also nicknamed the International Ambassador of Golf.
That's sick.
So, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool to have that nickname. 165 wins worldwide, including those 9 majors. What I love about Gary Player is the dude is a fitness fanatic. He has always trained like an athlete. Right. He's always wanted to be able to play well into his older years, and he still does. He gets around a lot better than some of the other guys that you see out there. No disrespect to them, but Gary Player's always made that a very important piece of his formula, if you will.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point we could do an episode on the history of fitness related to golf.
Yeah.
Tiger's another one, obviously, that comes to mind, really treating it as an athletic endeavor. But I found this funny in doing some research on Gary Player. He has a famous quote that the more I practice, the luckier I get.
Wow. I do not feel the same sentiment.
Bro, you're getting there. Come on now. Some of those drives you were piping at Falcon Head.
Yeah.
They were there. It's there.
We'll unpack it.
It'll get there. It'll get there. Maybe think about that quote.
I'm going to be thinking about the night every time I go practice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's some good inspiration. So, any final thoughts on Gary Player? International presence.
I mean, it's crazy to watch him whenever he tees off at the Masters, right? Like, that's the most recent, I guess, tee shot that we've seen him hit. Like, even at his age now, he's still putting the ball out there for a good bit of distance. So it's crazy to see, like, how the fitness can continue to help you maintain decent physique within your older years. So that's awesome to hear. That's awesome to see.
He always does that famous little like high kick.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
It's just pretty cool. All right. So now moving on to our fourth winner of the Grand Slam, Jack Nicklaus, aka the Golden Bear.
The Golden Bear.
One of the better nicknames.
I would probably say the top.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Right. So age 26. So we finally got somebody who has won the Grand Slam in their 20s. Took him 3 attempts, believe it or not. People think about Jack Nicklaus. On paper, he's the greatest of all time. He is the most accomplished. Most major championships at 18, right? He has actually achieved the career Grand Slam 3 times.
Wow. I did not know that.
So to put that into perspective, right? Like, we'll get into some lists of some people that were close, but to achieve the Grand Slam once is historic.
Yeah.
To do it 3 times is
monumental,
unfathomable.
Yeah.
Right. So his 18 majors still remain a record, right? Still has not been broken. My question to you, do you think that record is ever going to be in jeopardy?
No.
Tiger is now at 15. For him to squeeze out another 3 majors that's tough.
That's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough.
I think Tiger could probably squeeze out 1 more. 3 is going to be a challenge.
To me, the Masters and the Open Championship are Tiger's best bet to compete as he gets older.
Yeah.
PGA Championship as well. The U.S. Open, though, it's just long courses, hard greens, thick rough. It's a battle.
Yeah.
Right? So the U.S. Opens, I would be hard-pressed to say Tiger's going to win another one of those.
Yeah.
But I think he does have a decent chance if he can get healthy, stay healthy. The Masters, he could compete. Experience is a big deal there.
Yeah.
We saw that a lot.
Yeah.
This year and over the years. But the other crazy thing about the Golden Bear is he finished second in majors 19 times.
Wow. Okay.
So a total of 37 times he's finished either first or second in a major.
I mean, just imagine what the number would be if he's, squeezed out a few of those.
Easily in the 20s, right?
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, some of his wins were probably some close calls too.
Right.
Would love to do an episode on Jack Nicklaus. He's obviously, on paper the GOAT. But I would be interested to take a deep dive into which tournaments he maybe narrowly won. Of course, he probably had some that he won by a sizable margin. But 19 runner-up finishes in majors. That's absolutely insane. So, final thoughts on the Golden Bear.
You got to wonder if he ever played any games out there, like if he ever gambled with any of the other fellow players.
What do you think?
I don't know. I have no idea. I would imagine so.
I don't know Jack, so I can't speak for him, but I would imagine he
threw some change around.
Had some competition.
Yeah.
He doesn't strike me, though, as the type of guy that's going to gamble like a Phil.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But I would have to imagine he's doing something with his buddies.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Can't imagine. He strikes me as kind of a conservative gambler,
Yeah.
which that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's always up for debate, right? Greatest of all time on paper, theoretically the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
The arguments will always be, is it Tiger? Is it anybody else? But yeah, as it stands today, he is the best to ever do it.
Yeah. So moving on to our fifth winner of the career Grand Slam, the one and only Tiger Woods. The year was 2000. He was 24, so now became the youngest to ever do it. Took him one attempt. And he completed the career Grand Slam in 2000 with his British Open victory at St. Andrews. Pretty cool spot.
That's pretty sick.
I mean, the Masters with Rory is up there, but at the home of golf, that's a pretty cool spot to lock in the career Grand Slam. He also has won the career Grand Slam 3 times.
Okay.
In his career. Tiger also, being Tiger, won all 4 majors over just 3 seasons between 97 and 2000, and he also has what is called the Tiger Slam because he held the titles to all 4 majors at once between 2000 and 2001.
That's sick.
That's just like, we can get into it in a later discussion on who the GOAT is.
Right.
On paper, it's Jack Nicklaus, right? But when you look at some of these other characteristics about Tiger, like the Tiger Slam, that's pretty compelling in the argument of just like holistically who is the greatest of all time.
Right. Yeah.
Tiger, in my opinion, I wasn't alive whenever Jack was in his prime, but in my opinion, Tiger completely revolutionized the game of golf. Jack Nicklaus was a great at the time, but he didn't really reshape the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? Like Tiger got a lot of people into the sport that otherwise wouldn't have been playing it.
Yeah.
Could have been, just a result of the time that he was into, but nonetheless, we'll get into that debate at some time. So, thoughts on Tiger?
Gosh, I mean, like you said, obviously of our generation, the greatest that we've seen. I'm happy that we're born when we were, and we were able to see him a few times now at a few different tournaments. But just a great player, man.
Yeah.
Insane. I'm hoping he can get healthy again and get back out on the course.
Yeah, I mean, best of luck to him, and I'm sure he's got the best of the best helping him with his recovery. But the game of golf is better when Tiger is in the field.
Yeah.
No doubt. So our 6th and final career Grand Slam winner, the year was 2025, April 2025. At age 35, Rory McIlroy, a.k.a. Roars. Now, attempts, 11.
Yeah.
11. That's tough. But he is the first European to complete the career Grand Slam. It did take him 17 attempts to slip on the green jacket before he was able to do it. He is also, I believe, I might need to check this, but he's the first player to secure the career Grand Slam at the Masters. Maybe Gene Sarazen did as well.
I believe you said Gene Sarazen.
I think Gene actually did at the Masters. So, yeah, Gene Sarazen and Rory, the only 2 to seal the deal at the Masters. The rest would have been done at the PGA Championship.
Okay.
So, we talked a lot about Rory in the last episode, but, give me just your brief thoughts now that he's been able to get it done. And he's in this elite company with these other names. Where does your head go with
this? It's crazy because, obviously we went to the Masters. I feel like even myself included counted him out before the tournament even started. Luckily we were able to see him at the practice round, but history shows that, he hasn't been able to get it done, and you just kind of believe what the data tells you, right? But an absolute, just unique situation, unique story, and the ability for him to finally close it out. And his message afterwards and his story afterwards was, I mean, it was just great. I mean, stand-up guy. You couldn't have asked for a better person to finally win it.
Totally agree. Well said. Now, we are going to have an honorable mention to the Grand Slam winners. I feel it is only our duty as golf historians, people that love the game, but we can't talk about this list without mentioning Bobby Jones.
Okay.
I mean, the guy won the Grand Slam for the time. Again, U.S. Open, U.S. Amateur, British Open, British Amateur. The year was 1930. He won all four in the same year.
Damn.
So.
And how old was he?
He was 28 years old.
Okay.
So, Tiger Slam. How about the Bobby Slam?
Yeah.
It's
Might have to coin that one.
Pretty compelling, right? You know, a lot of. I wish that they would highlight Bobby Jones more in the Grand Slam conversation because it's absolutely relevant. Now, you could make the argument the U.S. Amateur and the British Amateur, they didn't have the strongest of fields.
Sure.
But
sure.
He still had some competitive matches.
Yeah.
I mean, he did take care of business in a lot of these. But, you know, if you were to count up his titles that he's won, so like if we were to equate the U.S. and British Amateur to majors, he's actually got 13 majors between 1923 and 1930. So that's not insignificant.
Right.
Right. But I felt like we needed to have a little bit of an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of honorable mention.
Yeah.
Because some of these guys on that list may not be there if not for people like Bobby Jones.
Right. I completely agree.
So now we're going to shift focus a little bit to some players that almost got there. So just to put it into context a little bit, how difficult it is to complete the career Grand Slam, right? And some of these names, they're not going to be a surprise, but pretty eye-opening when you start to hear some of these people and how close they were.
Yeah.
So starting off, Arnold Palmer.
A great drink, too.
Great drink. Great drink. We love an Arnie Palmer.
We love an Arnie Palmer, dude.
So the major he was missing was the PGA Championship.
Damn. Okay.
Closest call was he finished runner-up 3 times, 1964, 68, and 1970. Notably, in the 1968 PGA Championship, Palmer had an 8-foot putt on the 72nd hole to force a playoff, but he missed it.
Damn.
So, again, it's tough.
That's tough. That's surprising, too.
Maybe he jinxed himself by sort of coining his own Grand Slam.
Right.
I probably would have kept that internal until I completed it and then maybe brought it up. But hey, whatever. Still, obviously, fantastic career golf legend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, regardless of that.
Next on the list is Sam Snead.
Okay.
He was missing the U.S. Open.
Wow.
Arguably the toughest major to win.
Yeah.
Right. His closest call, so he finished up runner-up 4 times.
Oh, man.
In 1939, at the U.S. Open, Snead needed a par on the final hole to win, but made a triple, and he fell into a tie
that's
for 5th.
absolutely brutal.
So, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
That one, he's got to still be turning in his grave about.
Yeah.
Next one, Tom Watson. He was also missing the PGA Championship. So, again, Tom Watson, he's also one of the honorary starters at the Masters.
Right.
Multiple Masters winner, legend, but missed the PGA Championship, which is interesting because we're going to do an episode at some point on the PGA Championship, probably coming up here soon. The PGA Championship's actually one of the more rewarding majors for people that are sort of peaking at that time.
Okay.
Because it's not as difficult as the U.S. Open. It's not the Masters. And the Open Championship's kind of like in its own ballpark.
Right.
Right. It's just a different style than what we play here in the States. So his closest call is he had 6 top 10 finishes at the PGA Championship. his best being a 5th place in 1993.
Dang.
So here's my question to you. Would you rather be Sam Snead, finishing runner-up 4 times to the missing link, or would you rather be Tom Watson, missing the PGA Championship, but your best bet was 5th place?
It's a good question. My gut is telling me Sam Snead. Just for the heartbreak of it. The story about it. I mean, I hate nothing more, especially whenever I was younger playing sports, being in second place. But looking back on it now, I mean, it's just an insane story.
Yeah,
I feel like that would haunt me for the rest of my life, but to know that you could have done it, you could have had it. I feel like I'd rather live with that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, look, there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
I would almost defer to Tom Watson.
Yeah.
To where I don't have to deal with the anguish of I was right there.
Yeah.
I was right there. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times. But still, again, legend, one of the greats of all time.
Oh, yeah.
So still hard to beat. But moving on next, Lee Trevino. He was missing the Masters. The Masters was always his Achilles. The closest he got was a T10 in both 1975 and 85. Interesting story about Lee Trevino too. He often skipped the Masters whenever he was in his prime.
Really?
Because the course just didn't suit his game.
Yeah.
So he kind of took the approach of like, fuck it, I'm just not even going to show up. I'm not even going to put myself in the mindset of this. So,
wow. I feel like I would have at least given it a shot. Even if my game is terrible and you go shoot out a 91, you can play at 70 the next day.
I would have. I mean, any given Sunday, right?
Yeah.
It'll click at some point.
Right.
But I don't know. That was his philosophy. So, next on the list is Raymond Floyd. He was missing the Open Championship.
Okay.
His closest call was he finished second to Jack Nicklaus at St. Andrews in 78.
I mean, how can you compete with that?
So, if you're going to get beat,
Yeah.
get beat by the greatest of all time.
Right.
On paper. Byron Nelson. Another.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
So he was missing the Open Championship. To be fair, he only played the Open once, and that was in 1937. He finished 5th. The tournament wasn't held for several years whenever he was in his prime because of World War II.
Okay.
So maybe he would have gotten it done. You would think in his prime, Byron Nelson probably would have competed.
Yeah.
He probably would have won one, but still, that was the
one
that was elusive. Tommy Armour, another one. He was missing the Masters. His closest call was a tie for 8th, and that was in 1937. So he was on the older side of the spectrum too with players. So the tournament started in 1934.
Yeah.
So he was already 37 at that point.
Oh.
So,
okay. Starting to lose a little bit of gas there.
Give the guy some credit.
Yeah.
Last one on the.
Hey, we should calm down about being 34 though. There's still some athletes that are in their 30s.
37.
37.
Yeah, I mean, look, bro, we're at the age now where if we were running backs in the NFL, we'd be washed up veterans.
Oh yeah,
at this point,
for sure.
But I feel you.
Yeah,
I feel 23.
Oh yeah,
in my heart.
Yeah, definitely not in my back.
All right, last one on the close calls. Walter Hagen. Mm-hmm. He was missing the Masters.
Yeah.
So he participated in the Masters 4 times after its inception in 1934, but he never really contended seriously. So similar to Tommy Armour, he was on the older phase. Walter Hagen and Bobby Jones really dominated golf in the 20s.
Yeah.
But that's some of the kind of on the bubble close calls.
Yeah.
Now, let's sort of fast forward a little bit to the modern era, right? With players that are closest now to winning the Grand Slam.
Right.
We'll start from the top from an age perspective. We've got Phil Mickelson. he is missing the U.S. Open. He's had some close calls at the U.S. Open. But Phil's game, kind of like Lee Trevino at the Masters, Phil's game does not bode well with the U.S. Open because he can be a little bit errant off the tee. Phil's artistry and his creativity really comes around rescue shots, the short game, everything else. The U.S. Open, it's going to punish you.
Yeah.
So that's been elusive. Chances of him winning a U.S. Open at this stage in his career, probably pretty slim.
Yeah.
I'm
not going to put any money on that.
I would probably take the bet it's not going to happen. Next, though, is Jordan Spieth.
He's hot right now.
He played well.
Played well
at the Byron. Seemed like he was starting to get a little bit of his feel back at the Masters, too. Yeah. So he seems like he's progressing in the right direction. He's missing the PGA Championship.
Okay.
And that is next week at Quail Hollow.
Do we think he can pull it off?
Do you think he can pull it off?
I think he could. I don't know. With how he was playing this past week and the shots that we were seeing at the Masters and how we know he can perform. I mean, he's been on a little bit of a decline over the years, but he maybe found something in his swing that's changing the game right now for him.
His blow up at the Masters really affected his mental state.
Right.
And I think that became pretty clear. It took him a while to get back in the winner's circle, period.
Yeah.
Let alone, he hasn't gotten a major sense.
Yeah.
But do I think he can do it? Yes. I think anybody that is in the field can do it, with the exception maybe of some of the PGA professionals that are playing.
Yeah.
That it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
But even when Jordan Spieth is playing as good as he is, Scotty Scheffler won by 8.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Remove Scotty Scheffler,
right?
Maybe,
yeah,
Spieth has a chance. But this is something that's really interesting. Could we see this year in 2025 2 players complete the career Grand Slam?
That would be a wild year. I don't know if it's in the cards. Time will tell.
So, I was having a conversation earlier. I almost feel like if Spieth were to get it done, it would almost dilute a little bit of the storyline with Rory. Not taking away the accomplishment, because it's obviously a historic accomplishment.
Yeah.
But it would kind of water down a little bit of the excitement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, look, if Jordan's in contention, I'll be rooting for him to get it done.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think right now, looking at who's playing really hot, Jordan's playing well. There's some guys that are playing great right now.
Right.
Scotty's playing great.
Yeah.
He's certainly found his form post-Masters. Bryson's on a little bit of a tear right now. Just won on Live. Rory. Can't rule him out.
You can't rule him out.
He's clearly in a good mindset right now. Will he have a hangover from the Masters? We'll see.
Sure.
But
a few pints with the lads, he'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Just go hang out with Shane Lowry a little bit.
Yeah.
But so then, outside of those 2 guys, you've got 3 guys that stick out that have got 2 of the 4.
Okay.
So Dustin Johnson, he needs a PGA Championship and an Open Championship.
Yeah.
No?
Nah, I don't think he's going to have it. I don't think he's going to get it.
I think DJ, he could get it done. Again, like any given Sunday, right? He could get it done, but his time's starting to run out.
Yeah.
He's getting a little bit older now. He's not playing as much with Liv. So, I don't know. Maybe they can get a deal done. Those Liv guys get back on the PGA Tour. Dustin gets back into a more regular routine and schedule. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Next one is Colin Morikawa.
Okay.
He needs the Masters and the U.S. Open.
I think he has a shot to get it done. I think he can probably pull it off.
Still young.
Great swing. I wouldn't be surprised if he got it done. I'll say that.
Yeah. And then Brooks Koepka.
Okay.
He needs the Masters and an Open Championship.
Yeah.
I feel really good about Brooks competing in Open Championships. because he actually played in some other professional circuits on the European Tour before he got to the PGA
Really?
Tour.
Okay.
And he's used to the like harsh weather conditions, wind, just hitting quality shots in some of those harsher conditions. So maybe look out for Brooks. I think Brooks is a better shot. Let's put it this way. Brooks has a better shot than DJ.
Oh, I mean, yeah, 100%. I'd agree with that.
I think his game translates to the Open, and clearly his game in recent years, not so much this year, but in recent years, it has done well at the Masters too.
Yeah.
So who knows?
And he's still in great form. Like, still young, strong. We'll see.
Yep. So a couple things to wrap up real quick. Out of the 6 winners of the career Grand Slam and the honorable mention, we'll keep Bobby Jones in there. Who's your favorite?
Tiger.
Okay. That's fair.
Tiger, man. I've seen the guy play. Like,
yeah.
I mean, sure, we saw Rory play as well, but Tiger, man, all day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. That was probably the quickest response I've ever seen you give to anything. But to back that up, your prediction, who do you think out of the list of people that's on the bubble, it could be somebody that we're not even talking about right now.
It could be,
too.
sure. Yeah.
Who do you think is going to secure the next career Grand Slam?
I mean, honestly, I would have to put, if I had to put money on any of them, I would probably say Speed. Like, I feel like, sure, he's had a rough couple of years, and he's hard on himself too, which not ideal, but I feel like if anyone were to pull it off with the current state as of today, with how he's playing, I think he has a shot to do it. The biggest issue is he's playing with the likes of Rory still, Scotty, other great players that on any day can just run amok on the course and just put up some numbers that he just can't keep up with.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, look, I would love to see Spieth get it done. Texan, UT grad.
Yep.
You know, it's a remarkable list of people to even be considered in that conversation on one hand, right? But he only needs one.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
We'll find out soon.
Maybe it'll be next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those listening, tuning in, all that stuff, drop some stuff in the comments. Let me know who you think your favorite Grand Slam winner was. Let me know who you think is going to be the next person to accomplish the career Grand Slam. But yeah, that's it for today. For the Ages on YouTube, Instagram, X. Like, subscribe, drop us some comments, let us know what you think, share, all that stuff. But yeah, until next time.
Thanks for having me, man.
You
Cheers.
bet. Cheers, man.